they are indicated, they are actually are like the cold and the hot remedies from the same carbon spectrum, and we discussed how they are useful in cases where there is decayed food consumed, or there is lot of what do you say, dullness, and it comes at a later stage, when you are given the initial remedies. It's not the first remedy many times in the drowsiness that we see it mentioned. And there is a complementary remedy. There were two complementary remedies mentioned. One was arsenic, another is phosphorus. So we'll discuss arsenic and phosphorus today. Arsenic is a remedy. The first line which is mentioned in Allen's keynotes is mentioned as depressing, melancholic, despairing, indifferent. Now, there are stalwarts and there are teachers who will tell you that the first few lines of a drug are very important, and I would also say so. But this state of arsenic, depressing, melancholic, despairing, and indifferent, will come to you at a later stage after you have seen something that is anxious, fearful, restless, and full of anguish. So that is the first thing that you will see in your clinic or in common presentations many times. And then when there is no response, you will see that there is anxiousness, fearfulness, restless, there is full of anguish, and after that you will see depressing, melancholic, despairing, indifferent. And then you also see something mentioned as irritable, sensitive, peevish, easily vexed. So when you open Allen's keynotes, those who have joined, if you want to study along and you wish to strengthen your clinical acumen to understand how the remedies will appear in clinic, and based upon what you read in Allen's keynotes, how will you prescribe, this Allen's keynote study streak is going to guide you for that. So you have in Allen's keynotes irritable, sensitive, peevish, easily vexed. Greater the suffering, greater the anguish, restlessness and fear of death. They are mentally restless but physically too weak to move, cannot rest in any place, changing places continually, wants to be moved from one bed to another, lies here now and now lies there. So you have someone who is constantly anxious about his health, and he feels that a change of position may probably help him, but it does not help. That's why he wants to then go to another, then he wants to go to another. So this is a series of sequence of events which keeps on happening. It can also reflect a behavior of a person who keeps on changing jobs, one job to another. We saw this also in Sanikula, constantly changing his occupation. But over there it is something else. It is something which he does not commit to. Here it is due to restlessness. We'll see that it is mostly something to do with the inability to settle himself in the new environs, and constantly anxious feelings about his welfare first, and then at times he may have thoughts about others, but mostly they are selfish people. Because when you read the next line in Allen's keynotes for arsenic, you see anxious, fear of death, thinks it is useless to take medicine, is incurable, is surely going to die, dread of death when alone or going to bed, attacks of anxiety at night, driving out of bed, aggravated after midnight. Aggravation after midnight is something that is a peculiar phenomena in arsenic or arsenic related compounds. Barytars, calcarears, kaliars, natramers, and you will have some components of the other element. Going further, we have great prostration and rapid sinking of the vital forces, fainting. Burning pains, the affected parts burn like fire, as if hot coals were applied to the parts. The other remedy mentioned in the bracket in Allen's keynotes is anthracinum. Better by heat, hot drinks, hot applications. Burning thirst without special desire to drink. The stomach does not seem to tolerate because it cannot assimilate cold water. It lies like a stone in the stomach. It is wanted, but he cannot dare drink it or dare think about it. Cannot bear the smell or sight of food. Like the remedy colchicum and sepia. So there is a kind of a burning sensation inside and burning thirst for cold drinks, cold stuff, and it's more of burning thirst for general drinks rather than cold, because he feels better by taking something hot. And they have always this feeling that some smell is there, some sight of food which is aggravating their resting phase. Going further in Allen's keynotes, we have great thirst for cold water. Again, now here we have great thirst for cold water. Drinks often but little at a time. Eat seldom but much. Now, what is peculiar about arsenic is that he will feel generally better by hot, but the stomach symptoms are better by aggravated by cold drinks. And you have this feeling that he constantly wants water. This is a very strong confirmatory symptom in our practice. And when you read further, you see that they drink very little at a time and they eat very rarely but eat all together. So it's an opposite contradictory symptom. Teething children are pale, weak, fretful and want to be carried rapidly. It is very less prescribed in children, especially teething children. We always think of chamomilla, we always think of senna, we always think of calcarea phos, but arsenic should also be thought if they want to be carried rapidly, if they have a lot of thirst, if they have restlessness, right, which most of the children do have. But if they want to be carried rapidly, this is one of the remedy you should think of. Also, you should think of this remedy if you have these components, the teething component which is there, along with rapid emaciation, cold sweat, great debility, like tuberculinum, like veratrum, HT of affected parts and marasmus. Anasarca, skin pale, waxy, earth colored, like acetic acid, excessive exhaustion from least exertion. Exhaustion is not felt by patient when lying still, but when he starts to move, he feels that he is so weak. So they don't feel the exhaustion, but they want to do something, and when they try to do something, they will feel extremely weak. The modalities we already discussed in the few lines before this symptom. Worse aggravation is 1 to 2 p.m. or 12 to 2 a.m. Now there is an interesting symptom which is mentioned, and this is very useful for you all. Bad effects from decayed food or animal matter, whether by inoculation, olfaction or ingestion. So you see these people who keep on eating outside, fast food or different good restaurants or different places, You never know the ingredients, whether they are fresh, they are stale, they are raw, they are uncooked, and they develop some complaints. Maybe in common cases they develop diarrhea. You will see that they will have gastric troubles, irritations, or rumbling in the abdomen. Think about arsenic as one of the top remedies. It's going to help whether it is by olfaction or by injections or by uh, ingestion, which is intake of anything. Similar thing we saw also in carbo veg. So think about these remedies when patients have told you that we had eaten yesterday or day before yesterday somewhere at a place. It was a decent place, but still I doubt whether that has contributed to my diarrhea. The homeopath should think about arsenic in such cases, also differentiate it with the other remedies, but prime importance should be given to these remedies which we see mentioned as getting aggravated from these type of foodstuffs. Complaints written annually like carboveg, lacasis, sulfur, thuja. In fact, there is also ipecac in this, and also natramur. Natramur has a kind of a peculiar periodicity which happens every day, I believe, right, or every 7 days. Ipecac will have complaints every year. We saw it mentioned in the Ellen's keynotes or also in Bori. So going further, we have respiratory system which has breathing asthmatic must sit or bend forward, springs out of bed at night, especially after 12 o'clock, unable to lie down for fear of suffocation, attacks like croup instead of the usual urticaria. Quite self-explanatory. Gastric derangements after cold fruits, ice cream, ice water, sour beer, bad sausage, alcoholic drinks, strong cheese. So you have this combination of getting irritated from so many things. In fact, when you read Boric Materia Medica, there is a line in generalities, I think it's the second last or the last line, which says that arsenic is a remedy which keeps the system in check or in control in the cases where there is malignancy. So malignancy may not mean that there needs to be some tumor or something which is cancerous or dangerous, but it can also mean that things are going to spread, if you understand the word malignant, and if you have given arsenic to such patients, you will probably keep that thing or that infection under control. It will be localized and it will be taken care of by arsenic or by the body's vitality once the arsenic stimulates the body's vitality and help the cure. So go to Boric also and read about this remedy when you can. Since we are focusing on Allen, we will move further and we see mention of diarrhea after eating or drinking, stool scanty, dark color, offensive, and whether small or large, followed by great prostration. We saw this also in Arbovage, it's there in Veratrum album also. So lot of similar remedies, in fact they are the trio kind of something. And then we have hemorrhoids which have stitching pains when they are walking or sitting, not at the stool but preventing sitting or sleep. There is burning pain which is aggravated by heat, and there are fissures which make the voiding of urine difficult. In skin we have dry and scaly skin, cold and blue and wrinkled, cold clammy perspiration, similar perspiration we see in calcarea carb, but here the individual is thin, very restless. Over there we have the individual who is lethargic, plethoric, soric disposition, wets the head, etc. etc. Here it's more of on the extremities. Skin has dryness like parchment, white and pasty, and there are black vesicles and burning pain. Aggravation after midnight, 1 or 2 am or 1 or 2 pm from cold drinks or food when lying on affected side or with the head low. Amelioration we see from heat in general and reverse of CKL core actually, except the headache which is not better you know by anything, but except by cold bathing it helps. And this is similar to spigelia. Burning pains wherever in the body, they are ameliorated by heat. uh, Arsenic is very complementary and should be thought of when you have given allium sativa, carbovage, phosphorus or pyrogen. And it should be thought in ailments from chewing tobacco, alcoholism, sea bathing, sausage poisoning, dissecting wounds, anthrax poison, stings of venomous insects. So arsenic is a remedy which will have burning pains, which will have desire for cold water, but general aggravation will be from cold again, which is a very contradictory modality. And then we have amelioration from heat in general, and the gastric side effects, derangements. And if you have someone who has eaten out, you can give arsenic. It keeps the system under check, gives them the energy, vitality to face it and overcome it. And that's how we finish arsenic today. Next remedy we'll discuss is phosphorus. So let's read phosphorus from Allen's keynotes. Adapted to tall, slender persons of sanguine temperament, fair skin, delicate eyelashes, fine and blonde, or red hair, quick perceptions, and very sensitive nature. Now, if you just read these first few lines, like these 3 lines, you will understand what a beautiful description of a person can be seen over here. And it describes you everything about the external appearance. So you have something which is very peculiar over here, although it's not marked in bold, but it is mentioned that it has quick perceptions. So he is a person who is very quick to act and very sensitive nature. The next line we have is oversensitiveness of all the senses to external impressions, light, noise, odors, touch. Restless, fidgety, moves continually, cannot sit or stand still a moment. This is similar to zinc met. Now, before I share something about phosphorus, what is written further, you have to understand it is mentioning 2 components, the symptoms which I discussed. One was oversensitiveness, which indicates that the person is a very highly sensitive person, can get affected by external stimuli, opinions. It can not only be the light, sound or touch, but it can also be personal, everything that is around him. And we have someone who is restless and not confined to one place. That restlessness is an inner nature. It's not out of anxiety like arsenic, but it's just out of his the nature of the drug itself, right? Then we have the mention of something which is quite opposite of what is mentioned in the first few lines. What is mentioned in phosphorus for Allen's keynotes? Apathetic, unwilling to talk, answers slowly, moves sluggishly. Phosphoric acid. You have to question yourself when you read such symptoms. How come someone who has been mentioned as restless, fidgety, moves continually, has also been mentioned as moves sluggishly, answers slowly, apathetic, unwilling to talk? The remedy I discussed yesterday also in the Carbo Animalis and Carbo Veg. The remedy is acting in a, there are phases of the remedy that you will see. A patient may stay in the phosphorus phase throughout his life, or may keep changing depending upon the external circumstances that he has in his life. Secondly, if he stays in the same remedy throughout the life, there are chances that he will stay in a restless state, oversensitive state for 80% of the time, and then when he does not get the reciprocation, he will land up in some state which has apathy, which has something to do with not answering or unwilling to talk. It can also be a state where all his energies have got finished because he has spent himself so much in a situation or an event that now he has retracted back to where he should actually be to collect himself and his thoughts and his mind and the body. That's why we have further mention of phosphorus in Allen's keynotes, weary of life, full of gloomy forebodings. So you have in the first 5 lines something which are two poles of the remedy, and if you are a good student of Materia Medica, you will understand that every remedy will have two polarities. One is desire for sweet, aversion to sweet. Oversensitiveness, total lack of sensitiveness, right? Once you understand this, your understanding about the patient in front of you becomes very easy. You will probably understand that this patient is in this stage of the remedy, and so that he shouldn't land in the state of extremes, I will try to take him to the positive state. So it's a big theory, there are a lot of things, but just to keep it concise, let's move further. Young people who grow rapidly are inclined to stoop. If they walk stoop, the remedy is sulfur. If they are always stooping, you can think of phosphorus. But then again, only stooping shouldn't be the decision maker. You should also think about the other components of the case. People who are chlorotic, anemic, old people with morning diarrhea. People who are nervous, weak, desire to be magnetized, like the remedy silica. Again, here we have burning in spots along the spine, especially between the scapula, of intense heat running up the back. Palms of the hands are burning. In chest and the lungs there is burning, or every organ and tissue of the body is burning, and generally in diseases of the nervous system. So consider if you have a case who has developed some neurological complaint, and he has burning because it's the initial phase. If the nerves are oversensitive, he will show burning. If he is having the disease since the last many years or many months, the nerve endings would even have extinguished, and he will have total numbness also of those parts. So in those cases where you have burning and neurological complaints, think about phosphorus as one of the top remedies, especially if it is of the back or the lumbar spine, or the entire spine. Then we have something which is hemorrhagic diathesis. Small wounds bleed profusely, like the remedy creosote or lachesis, from every mucous outlet. Hemorrhage which is frequent, profuse, pouring out freely and then ceasing for a time. Metrorrhagia in cancer. Vicarious from nose, stomach, anus, urethra in amenorrhea. So any bleeding from other than the normal usual surfaces should make you think of phosphorus. It is a very good remedy. Secondly, in patients who should have menses but they do not have menses, there is some reason why it is not coming, but there is bleeding from any other part of the body, at that time we can think of phosphorus. Further, we have in Allen's keynotes for phosphorus, great weakness and prostration with nervous debility and trembling of the whole body, weakness, weariness, and loss of vital fluids. China and phosphoric acid are mentioned. Weak, empty, all one sensation in the head, chest, abdomen, in the stomach, and the entire abdomen. So, there will be many patients who will tell you that there is a feeling of emptiness in some organ or generally the entire body. It can happen because the disease has progressed for so many days that they are feeling totally prostrated, totally weak. That those are the cases that will require phosphorus. There are many other remedies also, but mostly polycrests have these feelings. Like arsenic, phosphorus also longs for cold food and drink, but here it is mostly juicy, refreshing things, which is similar to pulsatilla. If we go and read pulsatilla, similar to cyclamen also. Ice cream ameliorates gastric pains. Perspiration of phosphorus has the odor of sulfur. In fact, if we see, phosphorus, arsenic, and sulfur are one of the trios of MASH for burning. So, going further, we have dandruff in phosphorus, which falls in clouds. It is accumulated in lot of quantity, like lycopodium. We saw similar presentation in meadorhinum, sanicula, natramure, sulfur, many remedies. Hair falls in bunches, baldness of single spots. So you see the patient who have alopecia areata, you should think of this remedy, one of the remedies, but you should also give them intercurrents like syphilinum or based upon their constitution, the miasmatic remedy that will help them tide over that particular phase of uh, disease. Then you have necrosis of left lower jaw, and it is mentioned in bold. So whatever conditions have to do with the lower jaw, phosphorus is one of the top remedies. We have Hecla lava is one of the other remedies, and in boric there are a set of few remedies more. But in Allen we have specifically mentioned for lower jaw over here, which is phosphorus. I think it's there in capsicum as well with behind the ear symptom. The eyes are hollow, surrounded by blue rings, lids puffy, swollen, edematous. So both the lids are swollen, it is phosphorus. If upper lid, calica; if lower lid, apis mellificum. In respiratory system, for phosphorus we have pain, acute, especially in the chest, aggravated from pressure, even slightest pressure, especially the intercostal spaces. This is similar to ranunculus bulbosus in fact. And lying on left side, excited by slightest chill, open air intolerable. Heaviness of the chest as if weight were lying on it. This I have confirmed many times from many patients, especially those that have heart and the respiratory pathologies. They cannot talk, the larynx is so painful, dry, raw, rough and sore. When I was a student and an intern, I used to ask all the patients when was their cough worse. As soon as they used to land in the clinic or inside the chamber, when I was also in the internship, and when I saw these acute cases of coughs, I used to ask them when was the cough more. Most of the times I could get either it is from warm to cold or cold to warm. If it is warm to cold air, open air actually it should be. From the warm room to cold air, think about phosphorus. If it is cold air to the warm room, think about bryonia. In fact, there is a very nice rubric in Boric Materia Medica, and I think it has 20-30 odd remedies, out of which 4 or 5 are marked in bold. Go over that rubric in Boric repertory and you will get to understand what questions to ask patient and what remedies you should confirm in cases of cough. In fact, a cough of phosphorus, it is mentioned and I have also confirmed many times, it is aggravated from laughing, talking, reading, drinking, eating. Mostly it is talking and laughing. Lying on the left side like Drosera and sternum. In gastrointestinal system, for phosphorus we have in Allen's keynotes, as soon as the water becomes warm in the stomach, it is thrown up. Regurgitation of ingesta in mouthfuls like the remedy alumina. Nausea from placing hands in warm water, sneezing and coryza from putting hands in water like the remedy lac defloratum. In boric, sneezing aggravated by putting hands in cold water is having only two remedies, which is lac defloratum and phosphorus. This is from long back memory and it is just striking in now when I am just sharing about these remedies. So you have some of these females who keep having cold and coughs. If it starts, they tell the entire history, but if we try to confirm from them about when does the sneezing first start, and you will always, or probably most of the cases, you will get that it starts from washing hands in cold water or washing utensils, something like that. That should point towards lac defloratum or phosphorus. Constipation, feces slender, long, dry, tough, hard, like the remedy staph. Voided with great straining and difficulty, like causticum. Diarrhea as soon as anything enters the rectum. Now this is very special symptom, because as soon as the urge for stool is there, he needs to rush. This is like aloes. But over here, it is watery like sago particles. In aloes, it is mostly jelly like stools. Over here, the sensation also is as if the anus remained open. There will be lot of flow of the waste products, and it will be involuntary, especially during the cholera time. And if it is there in the morning, think about this remedy. If it is there in old people, think about this remedy. During pregnancy, unable to drink water, sight of the water causes vomiting. Must close our eyes while bathing. Very peculiar symptom. Aggravation of phosphorus, we see that it is from evening before midnight. Twilight is the phase when there is the dusk, the sun has almost downed, and it is a phase where it is between the sunset and the start of night. That is the period when it is mostly aggravated. This is like pulsatile and Rushdox. Lying on left side or painful side is aggravation. During a thunderstorm is aggravation. Weather changes, either hot or cold, is aggravation. Cold air relieves the symptoms of the head and the face, but aggravates the symptoms of the throat, chest and the neck. Amelioration by going in the dark. This is coming from the doctrine of signature. If you read about phosphorus as a doctrine of signature, it is an element which glows in the dark. So from that glow in the dark, you see that they are life of the party. They are the most extrovert person in the room. They are people who are, without whom the party is nothing. So if you have patients who are feeling that I am so extrovert that I feel like being in a party all the time, or wherever I go I have a lot of energies. In clinic also you will see a lot of vivaciousness. Think about phosphorus. In general, many of their complaints, they will feel better in the dark. Lying on the right side is a very special position for phosphorus. Patients who have after you have taken the case, you feel that you need to confirm something, confirm the sleep position, you will get this 99% of the time correct. They feel good by being rubbed or mesmerized from cold food, cold water until it gets warm. Complementary to arsenic, we studied this remedy few minutes ago. from which it is isomorphic. So it's very similar to arsenic, and we'll have to differentiate using physical generals. And the other remedy which is similar and it is a vegetable analog is allium cepa, which is the next what we are going to study. It's a small remedy. Phosphorus is incompatible with causticum. It must not be used before or after. Phosphorus removes the bad effects of iodine or excessive effect of table salt. Phosphorus follows well after calcarea carb or china, and it acts beneficially, which is what Hahnemann says, when the patient suffers from chronic loose stool or diarrhea. So you have someone who is suffering from loose stools. It's not specifically diarrhea. Diarrhea would mean that there is frequent episodes and too watery stool. But if it is loose stool, which is not a formed stool, you have an indication for prescribing phosphorus. Don't miss this in clinic. These are the small things which, Allen's keynotes, I would say, is 80% of giving you clues to the remedies after you have taken the chronic case. It has lot of pointers to think about the remedy and prescribe, rather than being a complete materia medica. Okay, so that is why it is so special. It is one of the books which will strengthen your prescriptive pointers in your clinic rather than just being a materia medica. And that is what is needed for a homeopath. You should have some conditions where you feel that these are the places or symptoms which I feel are important for prescribing phosphorus. Those are the ones that are mentioned. These are the symptoms which are important for prescribing arsenic. Those are the ones mentioned. Go over Allen's keynotes again. Go over this lecture again. You will get to know what is special about these two remedies. The last remedy which we will discuss is allium cepa. It is complementary to phosphorus. That is why we are discussing. So since the beginning we have taken this beautiful book and we are just covering all the remedies. We will be finishing all the remedies. But the remedies that we will be discussing are going to be complementary to each other. Allium cepa, we have acute catarrhal inflammation of mucous membranes with increased secretion. We saw the same thing in Dulcamara, we saw the same thing in pulsatilla and a bit of natrum. What is special over here is that there is a kind of an acridity which we know comes from the source again. So when you connect the symptom which is mentioned in Allen's keynotes or your materia medica to the source of the remedy, it is going to give you a beautiful impression of the remedy rather than just prescribing. You are going to connect to the source and think about what it does, how it does in its natural existence, and then how we use it in homeopathy. So then the second line we have in Allen's keynotes for allium cepa is spring coryza after damp northeasterly winds, hay fever in August every year, violent sneezing on rising from bed from handling peaches. So you have these patients who continually have dry rhinitis, allergic rhinitis as soon as they get up from the bed. One of my top remedies is sulfur, another remedy is allium cepa, and then it also depends on the stage of the disease. If they have come after too much allopathy, I would give Tipram marum varum, I would give Sticta, and so on and so forth. Further, we have in Allen's keynotes for allium cepa, phlebitis, puerperal after forceps delivery, headache ceases during menses, returns when the flow disappears. Like the remedy lachesis and zincum, there is a catarrhal dull headache. Eyes burning, biting, smarting as from smoke, must rub them continually, water is suffused, capillaries injected and excessive lacrimation. We all know from our college days that this remedy has acrid coryza and fluent lacrimation. So I need not speak about it, but there will be burning in the eyes. So that is the peculiarity that you need to pick up. This is also similar to Sabadilla, which you need to read again, and when you are prescribing you can think about it. There is Katara dull headache with the coryza, aggravated in the evening. This modality comes from the similar nature with phosphorus. Better in open air, aggravated on returning to warm room. In Allen's keynotes, there is mentioned that you should compare this remedy with euphrasia and pulsatilla. There is coryza, which is profuse, watery, acrid nasal discharge with profuse bland lacrimation, which I spoke about, and euphrasia has the opposite. The discharge burns and corrodes the nose and the upper lip. Acrid watery discharge dropping from the tip of the nose like arsenic and earth iode. Nasal polypus, which is also covered by Ticrem maramarum, I spoke about it in a bit short. Sanguinaria and sorinum, and then another compound of sanguinaria. Catarrhal laryngitis, cough compels the patient to grasp the larynx, seems as if cough would tear it. So this is an observational symptom. It is actually a sign, I would say, rather than a symptom. Many times in our clinic, and there are many such observation signs in the Allen's keynotes scattered across different remedies. Many times in our clinic, we will have patients doing something. Allen's keynotes has 1 to 5 symptoms out of the entire symptoms mentioned. For each remedy, you have 1 to 5 symptoms which are observational signs. If you read them clearly, this is one of them. Okay, so the other thing that they have mentioned, Dr. Allen has mentioned, is about their appearance, about their hair, about their eyes, etc., about many of the remedies. So you have a patient who is having cough, cold, but he, by mistake or by default, he is little bit troubled. He will hold his neck, leave it again. Think about allium cepa. Allium cepa is underprescribed in gastric complaints. Think about this remedy in colic from getting feet wet. You will have this in monsoon. From overeating, from cucumber, salad, hemorrhoidal pains of children, colic of children also, colic aggravated by sitting, better by moving about. Neuralgic pains like a long thread in the face, head, neck and chest. And then we have traumatic chronic neuritis, which is neuralgia of the stump after amputation. We know the remedy, top remedy we are always prescribing is hypericum. Burning and stinging pains. Last but not the least symptom is for allium cepa in Allen's keynotes, sore and raw feet, raw spots on the feet, especially heels, from friction. So you have these patients who have shoe bites. Think about allium cepa. Also think about giving them some local application rather than just the internal medicine. Efficacious when the feet are rubbed sore. Panarrhea, which is a kind of a problem for the nerves. It is there with red streaks up the arm, pain, drive to despair in childbed. Aggravation for allium cepa in Allen's keynotes is mentioned predominantly in the evening and in the warm room. This is similar to pulsatilla, but if there is aggravation from open air, think about euphrasia. Amelioration from cold room and open air, think about pulsatilla, think about allium cepa. You have a patient who is looking like a tall, slender person, who the remedy we discussed, phosphorus, but you do not want to prescribe phosphorus because the complaints are more or less showing traits of allium cepa. Think about allium cepa. So these remedies, calcarea carb, I discussed in brief yesterday how it has a few satellites. Similarly, phosphorus has a few satellites. Allium cepa is one of them. You will have arsenic as one of them. So the constitutional remedy remains in the center, and these are the cognates or the acute satellites of the main remedy, and should be thought when you need to give an acute remedy to the patient who looks like a deeper chronic remedy. So Allium cepa we have, it is complementary to phosphorus, pulsatilla, thuja, and it is to be given, or it is compatible with calcarea carb and silica in polypus, similar to euphrasia but coryza and lacrimation opposite, and bad effects from getting wet, rust spots. One of the most underprescribed remedies for getting wet is Allium cepa. We are finishing our rust ox 1M, 10M and whatnot medicine, whatnot potency for patients who are getting wet. But if we closely introspect, there are other remedies also. Allium cepa is one of them. So today we finished 3 more remedies: arsenic, phosphorus and Allium cepa, and it is day 17 of Allen's keynote study streak, and we'll finish the entire Allen's keynotes, and I hope it is helping everyone understand the little things that is mentioned in Allen's keynotes are going to be your pointers for prescription, so don't miss out on this valuable book. So thank you all for joining, and see you all tomorrow evening.